we'll crack on. So today's topic, how to boost your profitability and how to do it faster. So I do a lot of webinars on different topics, but ultimately this is the most important thing, right? How do we build a business that is, well, not only profitable but sustainable as well? That's what I'm interested in helping people doing. I'll talk about some of the things I've seen with clients. It's obviously an issue that some people are struggling with at the moment. We'll talk about that. Some people are, they are profitable, but you want to get to the next level. Whatever situation you're in, it all applies. Like the same principles I'm going to talk about today apply to all those situations. And I am interested in how to move people to becoming more profitable faster, because actually I do think this is something that is often over-egged. It takes far longer than it actually needs to. There are lots of ways where we can move you faster and get your result that you want to have quicker. So I'm going to share my process, what I do, and how you can take this away today. Very practically, you can go away and do stuff differently today. So let's move on. So that's what I'm here to do today. Give you some advice and guidance. I'll talk about work I did with my clients, my experience in previous things I've done. I'll talk about things that my own business, my own experience as well. I will end about my Founders Reboot program. It's a short program for business owners. It applies the principles we talk about today. If you're someone who wants support in doing what I'm going to talk about today, then that's a good solution for you. I'll talk to you about that at the end. And as I said before, we'll answer questions as well at the end. So put them in the Q&A if you've got questions as we go along. I'm happy also to take things in the chat as well if you want to bring things up. So profitability solutions. If you're running a business and your profit is not at the level that you want it to be, I'm interested to know today where you sit here. What things have you tried before? So the common things I see, so tell me in the chat which of these ones apply to you in your business. So perhaps you've tried reducing your costs. So you've cut your cost margin, but it's not had the significant effect as you want it to. So have you tried that? Tell me in the chat if you've done this. Have you cut your costs? Have you reduced your prices, but found that it gives you a short-term fix, maybe a boost in sales, but it's not a sustainable solution? Have you invested in productivity? So is this, this could be investing in technology, it could be investing in training, it could be, investing in those ways of working that enable you to be a bit more, but it can take a long time, or maybe the results aren't, what you wanted, even though it's taken a while. Have you tried investing in sales and marketing, but it's not creating the uplift you want? I see this a lot with businesses where they do a branding exercise. It may feel like a reskin, but it's not actually shifting the dial for the organization. I can talk about why that might be later. And then another thing really common. So again, tell me if this is you in the chat. Have you got ideas for what you want to do with your business and how to grow it, how to make it more profitable, but you struggle to make the time to actually plan it and then do it? I do see this quite a bit. So a lot of people do struggle with this. So let me know which of these things apply to you. It might be multiple ones. I'm really interested to see where people are and where it is that might be most relevant to them today. I can sort of direct it there. So let me know. I'm seeing people talking about time. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Okay. And yeah, also okay, reducing prices, it doesn't have that. Okay, so that's really helpful. Thank you for people who are contributing to that. So let's move on. Just a brief introduction to myself. So my name's Joe. I'm a business owner like most of you are. I'm also a qualified performance coach. So I know how to get the best potential out of people, and I've got a qualification as well behind that. I'm an award-winning strategist and innovator, and I've had 20 years experience in working in a variety of roles. So I've worked in big organizations, I've worked in small organizations, I've run my own business, Craft and Scout. The kind of thread through everything I've done has always been about making change happen. That's what really excites me and really interests me. It's how do we create change? How do we create new business models? How do we create new products and services that are going to improve performance? And how do we create the communications and the marketing around that as well? How do we deliver value, essentially? It's what I'm interested in. And my vision is to help entrepreneurs do what they do best, which is to be on the front foot. If you're running a business, you want to be doing the things that you aspire to at the start. What got you excited about your business at the start? And that's typically the things that will lead to more growth and more success in the future, if you can tap into that spirit and that aspiration you had at the start. So what I'm interested in, and what I like to do, is help founders and I help entrepreneurs improve and grow their businesses. And the reason I do this is because progress depends on people like you. We as a society, we're absolutely stuck if we don't have people creating new things, doing new things, making things happen. And it's really important. I always say this to business owners, like, don't underestimate that you are a minority in the country, that only a certain subgroup of people are either willing or able to do what you do, which is to create things, create a business, build a business, innovate and try new things and do new things and take a risk. So always keep that in mind, especially when the going gets tough. You need to realize progress depends on you. And that's why I sit and support people like you, because I want you to make it happen, and I want you to have the success and the results that you're after. Now, why is profitability an issue for so many businesses? There's a few factors I'm going to talk through here. One is around, it's a useful context thing for all of us who are in the UK, is the UK economy is not currently in a healthy state. And I think sometimes we underestimate how shaky the foundations are of the UK economy. So overall, the size of the economy is barely bigger than it was pre-pandemic. And that's much smaller growth relative to other countries around the world. Another thing to bear in mind is, over the last 20 years, people in the UK, so this is not just to do with the pandemic, but comparing over the last 20 years, people in the UK are quite significantly poorer and have become relatively poorer compared to our peers. So if you look at figures from about sort of the early 2000s, GDP per head, we were per capita, we were equal to Germany. And now in 2012, looking at 2023, we are 13% effectively poorer per person than someone in Germany. So that equates to, I think I've got the number here somewhere, that equates to about like nearly £6,000 per year, not overall, per year. A UK person is poorer than a German. And we're about £14,000 a year poorer than people in America. So, and then we've got, I mean, I could list it off, right? Our investment is poor, productivity is poor, we've got an aging population. I mean, I'm not going to turn this into an economic webinar, but it's safe to say, like, the stats tell us we are relatively in a poor state compared to where we were 20 years ago. So it's important context to bear in mind when we're thinking, like, why are customers or clients not buying? That's a pretty big factor, and we have to keep that in mind. So that's the first reason. The second reason I want to talk about is that competition, there's always going to be competition in the market who will outspend you. Now, whether you work in B2B or whether you work in B2C, customers will buy on trust. Even if you're in business to business, if you're still selling to human beings, and we buy on trust. And awareness and familiarity is what drives trust. And this is why the big brands in McDonald's of the world are like, absolutely, will hammer you with millions of adverts, because they want to be top of mind, they want to be in your brain, and they also want to drive that familiarity so that you trust them more, so that you buy from them. So whatever your size of your business, you're always going to have somebody there with bigger resources who can outspend you, and they can be more trusted and more top of mind. So the challenge for you is, if you don't have a budget to outspend them, how are you going to be top of mind? How are you going to grow trust? How are you going to build your awareness? You're going to have to come up with a smarter solution if you don't have, if you can't chuck, millions of dollars at it. So that's the other factor where, like, this is another reason why we might be struggling with ultimately profitability and performance. And my final point in this section is, most businesses, and I think this is a really underestimated thing, is that we're not honest with ourselves, that most businesses are essentially what I would call wallpaper. And what I mean by that is, we're effectively interchangeable with other businesses. There are other people who do things similar to us. We're not giving our clients or our customers a compelling reason to come to us and to stay loyal and to return their business to us. If we're really truthfully honest about most businesses, we don't really stand out as much as we should do. And it's most business, if we look at most businesses across the board, that's the situation we're in. Is like, there isn't anything compelling about most businesses. We're totally honest with ourselves. And this is what I kind of work on clients, is we've got to get to the kind of real truth about these things, about what's holding us back, because these are the solutions that will get us out of this. And it's very easy to feel, to get into a negative spiral with this once we start struggling and we're not reaching the level of performance that we want to be. It's really important that we look at the fundamentals of the business, not just tweak around the edges, things that might make us feel busy and make us feel good, but actually we're still having the same problem year after year. I'm interested in, how do you solve these long-standing problems around businesses? Okay, so having talked about those problems, what are the things that we're missing? Well, the first question I'd ask is, are we investing in the business? And if we are invested in the right places? So I see this with many businesses, that they do invest in growth, but often they're doing it in the wrong places, and it's not therefore giving them the output that they want. Another key point on this is, I'm not purely talking about investing capital, and I'm not just talking about investing, your resources of your team or your agencies or your partners. I'm talking also about your time. Probably more important than anything is about, where do you invest your time? And this comes back to the point I was saying before about, a lot of business owners are not investing enough time in the big issues and the strategy and the growth of their business. They're spending it on firefighting or smaller tasks. And this is a really, really important point. You've got to be consistent in the time you put on your growth strategy. It is not an add-on task. And I see this so many times with people, where they're like, well, I might be able to fit in a bit of time next Thursday morning, or I'm on a train next week. I'll try and do an hour on it then, and then I'll come back to it, a week after that. And what I observe with people is that time just drags out longer and longer and longer. And they know they should be getting on with it, but it never happens, or it happens at an absolute snail's pace. You should never be talking about fitting it in. Your role is to prioritize growth. If you own the business and you drive the business, your role is to prioritize growth. And that means prioritizing time on planning how you're going to build a bigger, better business. And another thing I think I want you to think about, if you run your own business, it's very easy to be your own worst enemy. And I know this myself. I've been in this situation. I've been guilty of this in the past as well, which is, by nature, we are problem solvers. So, we build a business and we work out as we're going, like, well, how do I do this? How do we do that? How do we get this to the customer? How do we connect these two things together? And that is obviously a really, really positive trait. And that's not something to lose. I'm not something I want to underplay. It's a fantastic thing to have. It's what makes you you. However, when does it creep into control freakery? And if we're really, really honest with ourselves, because we can solve problems, that will often lead us down a path of solving too many problems and not delegating them out or giving them to somebody else or find another way to do it. And actually feeling like, oh, actually, I want to retain control here myself of solving all these problems. And I think it takes a bit of insight into yourself to realize that actually this is a problem for us. It is a real problem. Ruben's saying is relatable. Thank you, Ruben. Is that the control freakery, Ruben, that you're relating to there? I just think this is a really common thing, and this is something we have to absolutely be honest with ourselves and call out. So, a final point in this section: falling profitability is what happens when we're too busy to think and change. I've talked about that. What I haven't talked about is accountability. So who is holding us to account when we plan and say we're going to change something? Oh, I need to grow my client base within this sector, for example, next year. Who's holding you account for doing that, for actually getting on and doing it, and doing the small steps that lead up to the big change? If you don't have really kind of engaged shareholders who are on you all the time, it's very likely that you don't have anybody who's holding you to account. And if you don't have that accountability, it inevitably leads to taking too long to do things and therefore long-term decline, because we've got all these problems that I talked about with the economy, with the competition. It gets harder and harder and harder if you don't find a way to hold yourself to account. So having said all those things, what is it that we're doing wrong? So these are the common things that I see that businesses do wrong. First of all, boosting short-term sales. We cut our prices. And we see these signs on the high street, right? 50% off, 70% off. And it's become like wallpaper now, because we see that all the time. And you go down the high street and you think, well, they had a 50% sale on last week. It'll probably still be there next week. Why should I go and buy? Haven't got a compelling, urgent reason to go and give them my business. Yes, you can boost in the short term, but the long-term effect of this is decline for the business. Delaying change to next year. I've talked about this. Actually, there's, just postponing. Yeah, we'll do the big change next year. And oh my word, I've seen this so many times in big corporate organizations as well. I've noticed this is one of the hardest things in businesses of any level, is just to get on and do the real important long-term stuff that actually is meaningful to the business. Not only does it create long-term decline, you're actually losing opportunity in the short term as well, because you could be taking action and learning in the short term to learn what's going to help your business in the long term. I'll talk more about that later on. Another common thing that business owners say is, I'll get these smaller tasks done first. And then they work longer and harder, burning the midnight oil, trying to get all of these things done. And not only does that give you long-term decline, but you also get personal burnout as an added bonus as well. So, this really, you're just going to exhaust yourself working on this. And it's such a common thing now in a tough economy that we think we'll just work longer and harder. Also relates to the control freakery thing that I mentioned before. Another problem is perfecting the new strategy. So we know we need to do something. I've got an idea, I'm working on it, but I'm still working on it. And I'm not going to launch that new service until it's absolutely perfect and I've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. And that also, there's an opportunity cost there in the short term, because you're not, new products. I've done a lot of work on this. New products and services or new strategies, you need to get them out into the real world and see, because they never work first time. You never hit a home run from something you've designed on paper. You have to get it out there and learn. And that only happens from, being proactive and putting stuff out there. Perfection is an absolute enemy of innovating and strategy, frankly. So getting the right balance is critical between reflection and action. So most business owners don't reflect enough. They're not taking enough time to reflect. And again, I want to make this really clear. This is not something that needs to take massive amount of time. You've probably got most of the answers in your head already, but you need to take the time to drag it out and actually spend some time doing it and reflecting. But then the other point is, relating to that perfectionist point, is you then have to take action, and you have to take action quickly. So you find out where is the opportunity for you, and then you take action. Get that balance, you get that right. That is the secret sauce of this. That is what will move you forward, and it will stop you feeling so stressed that it's taking so long, and why is nothing changing? Which brings me back to the central point of this, like, how do we boost profitability faster? So I want to be clear on this. There are no shortcuts. There's no magic answer with this stuff that instantly turns around a business or takes it to the next level. But what is important is you can definitely do it faster and slower. And I'm interested in, like, how do you get there in the fastest possible way, not in the way that just drags out for year after year and you're just continually frustrated. So these are the things you've got to think about. First of all, it's not just about your business, it's also about you. So business owners, founder businesses, entrepreneur, set up by entrepreneurs, the business reflects you. It reflects you in all the good and bad ways about you. So what I'm saying here is you've got to take time to get insight into yourself as to, like, what is it about me that accelerates my business and slows it down? So I guarantee you will have blind spots you're not aware of that hold your business back. They will be things about your habits or your communication style, or just, the way that you do business, the way you work. There are things about how you come across to other people that you're perhaps not aware of. There will be things there that you need to understand. And also you need to understand your strengths. We talked before about, not spending your time working on too many problems that you're not especially brilliant at. You want to be focusing on the things where your strengths are naturally, and also, lend themselves, but also where you're going to be most enthusiastic, because that's where you're going to get the performance. So it's really important. You have to think about your business and you as well. And you have to prioritize on creating value. And, I use the example of, like, a brand like Levi's, right? A brand like Levi's is not just, essentially they're selling jeans, right? It is quite a commodity, but they've been around for decades. And the way they've done that is because they create a bigger value around, pioneering the West, adventure. All those things are tapped into by the Levi's brand. And that's how they've been able to sustain themselves. And the way to create value, this is nearly always the solution I find with clients, is cut down your audiences, be more focused on who you speak to. Most businesses talk too broadly. And if you want to be compelling and you want to have repeat business, like, you need to be more focused with your audiences. And you also need to work on your value proposition, which is really dragging out, like, what is the reason actually that people buy from us? What is it they're looking for? What is the actual problem we're solving, and how are we solving it in a unique way that is different from other businesses? Like, again, this doesn't require a big expensive branding agency to do this for you. It actually requires you. You're the best person placed to do it, but you need to just spend a bit of time doing it. So cut down your audiences, improve your value proposition. But then the related point to this is you can deliver the best product or service in the world, but it means nothing unless you can communicate high value to your customers. So if the market share will go to those organizations who are the best at communicating. It doesn't go to the ones who are the best at delivering. It might be an unfair world, but it's the reality that we live in. You've got to be able to communicate high value. And that might be coming back to your personal, what is it about you and your business and the way that you collectively communicate that's holding you back in this area? And I think this is something that isn't said enough about communication in business, is that you have to be brave. Because as human beings, naturally, we're inclined to sit within the group. So sit within our sector. We do this in business. We sit within our sector. You think of most sectors, most business sectors, most of the major players, they tend to be very similar, and they tend to do similar things and promote their business in similar ways with similar messaging. And actually it takes a bit of bravery to go, no, we'll do it a bit different. And you want to get to that position where you're competition actually says, that's a bit weird. We wouldn't do that. Being a bit weird is actually what you want. I'll give you a really good example of that. Henry Hoover. If you're in the UK, you'll probably know Henry Hoover. And it's a really interesting example because they don't advertise. As far as I know, they don't actually proactively advertise, other than obviously through their own channels and their website. And yet we all know this product and we all recognize it and we've seen it. And if we take a step back from it, it's actually a really weird thing. We've got a smiley face on a pretty functional Hoover. And it's the kind of thing, if you came up with that idea first, people would laugh at you and go, well, that's ridiculous. You know, why on earth would that work? But this business, so Pneumatic is the business that produces these. It's the only mass-produced Hoover in the UK now. We don't know, no one else does this. And in a world of Dyson and quite high tech, you know, within this sector, this quite traditional Hoover is still going and it's still employing 1,000 people in Somerset. And it's still owned by the same business owner who owned it back in the sort of late 70s, 80s when they created Henry Hoover. And he's worth about 150 million. So, you know, there is value in this. And think about it, it doesn't cost them hardly anything to put a smiley face on a Hoover. And yet it makes it memorable, it makes it warm, it makes it relatable, it makes it you know, something that sticks in your mind. And you know, I would argue it's purely that face that has enabled this brand to carry on and still be successful. It's got personality, it stands out, it's weird, but it works. So to innovate doesn't actually always require a lot of money. And I'd always say try and, you know, always aim to innovate with the minimum outlay. You've got to focus on avoiding perfectionism. And also the other thing is a focus on learning goals. That's the key to this. So when you try something new, don't sort of think, right, well, we'll launch this new product and we expect a sky high income from it right from the start. Because actually the better way to do is like, what do we need to learn about our customers so that we can adapt it and change it and then make it work and be highly profitable, rather than kind of setting yourself for failure up from the start. And this is the way that I do it. So this is the kind of roadmap that I do to get us to that place where we've got more profitable products and services. We start with personal insight. So as I said, businesses are shaped by their founders and their owners. So we start by looking at the person, then we look at how do we create unique value within the business. Then we work on how do we communicate that effectively and stand out and be different, be memorable. And then the final point is all about taking action quickly and holding yourself to account, some kind of mechanism to make sure that you go ahead and do it. Because we can all talk a good game and aspire to things, but we actually need to, at the end of the day, create things happen and move fast. Because that's what you need to learn to take your business to the next level. So some examples of the personal insight side. This is what a founder in the hospitality sector said to me. They said, I have conflict in what I want my business to do long term. My head says one thing, my heart says another. And when you're conflicted, what you typically find is you're frozen and then your business is frozen. It's hesitant, it's not progressing. Tell me in the chat if any of these things are you, if you relate to them. I'm avoiding opportunities to promote my business as I've got too many ideas. I don't know which one to lead on. So this person, they worked in energy. They similarly were not taking opportunities that they knew were on the table, opportunities they had, they could promote their business and win new business, but they weren't doing it purely because they had too many ideas in their head. This is why you've got to understand yourself. Another founder in the tech sector said to me, they had bold ideas they wanted to do, but they felt they lacked gravitas, which really is coming back to their personal confidence. Like, I don't know if I've got the confidence, the gravitas to go out and do the things actually I know I need to do and I want to do. So again, this is coming back to the personality shaping the business, and it then has a consequence on activity and performance. So coming to this point about creating unique value, how do you do this? Well, I said it starts with your audience. So Yeti is an interesting example of a quite a young company in America, which began by specializing in water coolers, like these cooler crates, which basically keep your beers and your drinks cold when you're out and about fishing or in the wilderness or hiking or wherever it might be. So what's interesting about this is because it was a startup company, is they knew you couldn't compete with the product that most people buy, which is the same product but like $50 in Walmart. And obviously, as a small brand, they just can't compete with that. You know, they're not going to. So what they did is they said, well, what if we sold a $400 or $500 water cooler? What if we had it like with every premium feature? It's durable and it's robust and it's like you can stand on it if you needed to go and fix something. You know, it's like really high end, really, and like, you know, and what they did is they positioned this as like, well, if you're a real adventurer and if you're really into getting into the American wilderness, this is the water cooler that you take with you, the drinks cooler. This is the one that you buy. You know, the $50 one is for amateurs. If you're really into adventure, this is the one you get. And that's been really, really successful. So successful that they now sell all these other products, you know, clothing and bags and drinks bottles and all these other things, because they created a brand. And it all started from this one kind of iconic, high value, high margin product. So it is about saying more than just keeping your drinks cold. It's about having that value, like making people emotionally feel good about buying the product. Like I now, you know, people will buy this and they'll buy the logo on a t-shirt because it represents adventure and all that kind of that spirit is what they're buying into. An example of a client of mine this is about communicating value. So one of my clients, they basically work on like consultancy and coaching. And so they were pitching themselves as like, well, I'm a lead, you know, I do leadership and change consultancy. And that's how they were pitching themselves out. And really, this is something, you know, this is that you know, that could describe pretty much any leader in any sector everywhere. It's like, yes, it's probably applicable to lots of people, but is it not speaking directly to anybody? So once she went through the founders reboot process with myself, she now promotes herself as, I'm a personal development coach for finance leaders given new responsibilities. So she's much more precise. So if you're a finance leader and you see that, you immediately go, oh, that's relevant to me potentially. But then she's also added this situation because she worked out, where do I add most value? And so who should she add most value to, which is finance leaders, and when was like when they're given new responsibilities. So most finance directors, once they've been in post for 2, 3, 4 years, typically they're running the finance department, you know, quite soundly easily. And that's often when the CEO will then give them like new responsibilities, new things to do, like take on the IT team or take on the. And that's typically when they then get out of depth and they suddenly feel like, oh, I don't know how to do this as well as I know my finance stuff. So she spotted an opportunity there and she can now communicate it and say, look, if you're in this situation, speak to me. So it's really, really focused and it's, you know, it's looking at a particular problem that the audience has. And that's much more effective than just saying supporting anybody who needs change consultancy. And storytelling is the thing you've got to learn how to tell stories effectively. So Stephen Bartlett says, stories are the single most powerful weapon any leader can arm themselves with. They're the currency of humanity, which if you think about it, has been around for thousands of years. That's true. Those who tell captivating, inspiring, emotional stories rule the world. And if you're in business, you need to learn how to tell these captivating, inspiring, and emotional stories. And that's what I love helping people to do, because everyone's got a story. We all start businesses for different reasons. That's the thing you've got to uncover. A good example of that is the Body Shop. So now in administration, really successful under its original founder in the 80s and 90s, Anita Roddick. And the reason it was successful, because essentially you're just buying soaps and lotions in the Body Shop. And yet she gave the feeling that you buy those products, you're helping to change the world. You're helping the world to be a better place. You're reducing animal testing. You're, supporting, a better environment. Like helping to change the world, that is true value, way beyond what a soap or a lotion can do. And that's about, being brave and standing out and being different. And this last point on the accountability and action point. So this is how important it is when you work with somebody else to help hold yourself to account for doing stuff. So if you have an accountability partner and you set a goal with them, you say that I'm going to go and do X for my business, you're more likely than not to achieve that goal, 65%. So it's 2/3 like chance that you're going to do it. If you meet with that accountability partner continuously, that rises to 95%. So you're almost certain to do it if you meet continuously with an accountability partner. That's how important accountability is. If you're in a business and you're thinking like, why are we not making traction? Why am I not doing the things I know I need to do? This is the key to doing it. You need to share that goal with somebody. And you can do it publicly as well. Some people choose to publicly announce they're doing something. They do it to hold themselves to account so that they feel like, I don't want to let them down because I said I'd do it. One of my clients said, they weren't reflecting, they were just moving from one task to another. So that's the thing you've got to get out of. You have to reflect and you have to then take action. If you're just moving from task to task, you're going to be stuck in this loop, basically. So just mind me a second for some more water. I hope this is helpful, by the way. Tell me if this is helpful. Give me any comments about what things are resonating for you. Right, so my own business, Craft and Scale. So I've been in business for about 6.5 years now. And I've worked in that time on a mix of consultancy and coaching and for a very broad variety of clients. And I've always had a healthy pipeline and I've always had good, consistent profit. So, all good, right? Running my own business, running my show, profit, it's all good. However, recently, changes in my own family circumstances meant I've got to adjust what I'm doing. I actually need to make more profit and I need to do it in less time because I've got more family commitments now, which I want to, do. So I need more money in less time. So that was the situation I was facing. So I went through this process myself around my own business. And these are the things that I did following that process. And what it's led to is that I've been able to triple my sales calls and my sales inquiries within 6 months because I followed this process. So personal insight. When I reflected on myself, when I looked at how I was performing, I realized I had a lack of visibility. So I was too focused on delivery, doing the best job possible for my clients and going deep when I was working on it, rather than putting out to the world consistent, compelling communication to my target audiences. So that was the kind of thing I learned from looking at myself. And then on top of that, when I built on that is, how can I create more unique value? So Founders Reboot is a product that I've created from this process because it increases the value that I offer to a tighter audience. It's pulling together all the stuff I've always done, but put it in a more packaged way so people can understand it. And also now I'm deliberately focusing on, working with the audience I most love to work with and where my most enthusiasm is, which is around business owners and entrepreneurs. So I've got the product and I've got the value and then I've got to work out how do I communicate that value in a more compelling way. So what I've done is I've experimented more on LinkedIn, but I've also, and this is the really key point, is I've expanded my LinkedIn network. So I've got a bigger audience to speak to, but a more targeted audience because I'm only speaking to business owners and entrepreneurs and founders. But the key to doing that is I've had to be really consistent in my actions. Building up on LinkedIn requires really consistent performance and a real discipline. And offering things like the webinars like this as well is all part of my content and what I do. But I have to be very disciplined in what I do and use my time really super effectively. So the way I've done that is I've got external coaching support that not only helps me inform like how I go about doing things, but also makes me hold myself to account. Because I don't want to kind of let them down. I want to be ensuring I'm taking action. I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. And to do that, I make very clear tests and goals so I know what I'm doing. And all of this is quite simple. You might start to think this is quite complex, but it's actually very, very simple. It's really the discipline of doing it and being very focused. And when I talk about focus, the important thing to know about focus is it means you put aside stuff that you really want to do and you might be very excited about, but you choose not to do them. And that's a really important point that a lot of people fail to understand, and why they're not having the impact that they want is because they're not truly focused, which means you put aside stuff that you're excited about, but you choose not to do it. It's a really important point to remember. So that's my process. That's how I work. That's how Founders Reboot works, and we go through those 4 stages. But I think that to ask you a question about this is, I would say, what is it you were doing 8 weeks ago? So if you think back to 8 weeks, 2 months ago, so we'd be in late March, just have a think, what was it that you were working on? Because if we'd started on this process that I've just outlined today, by this time now, you would have already had personal insight on yourself. You'd know where you can create more value for your business. You know how to communicate it. You'd have a plan for action, and you'd have a mechanism to hold yourself to account for it. We'd have done all of those things in 8 weeks. So that's how this doesn't need to be a 6-month, 12-month process. It's about getting on and doing it and committing the time to doing it. And these are the 4 steps of Founders Reboot is what we do. We do personal insight, communicating value, creating value, action accountability, and that gives you greater control over your business. You're strategically proactive, and it also reduces your stress. You feel much more in control. You're not worrying about, I've got to get on and do this, and you're not fighting too many things. You know, where do I need to spend my time in the business? That's the point it's made. The 3 kind of parts of the 3 factors of it is greater focus, better communication, and accountability. This is how you build a more valuable, more profitable business. I've made this point already. It doesn't need to take a year, 6 months. It should be 2 months. You can get on and do it. And then you're in control and you know what you need to be doing rather than agonizing about it. So, Founders Reboot, 8 weeks to control your business, grow your business, and then give you more freedom. Because I find most business owners want more freedom, either to do bigger, better things with their business, or maybe to go and work abroad, or to work more flexibly, or to go and climb mountains, or whatever it is you want to do, or just have more time with family. That's kind of why I designed it the way I did, because that's what I know people is what they typically want to unlock from their businesses. Typically, that's what the goals people have in mind when they start a business, and they want to be more free. But then we get subsumed, don't we, with the day-to-day and the firefighting and getting stuff done, solving every problem that comes our way. That's what I like to help people out. So this is how it actually works in practice, Founders Reboot, is we meet online, one-to-one on a Zoom call, and we meet weekly for 90 minutes. So, and it's scheduled. So if, say, we meet on Monday mornings, we'll always meet at the same time for 8 weeks for 90 minutes. So it's in your diary. And when you sign up to do it, I schedule everything for you, make it really, really easy. I put all of it in your diary. I bring any templates and things that we need to do the 4 steps that I talked about. Because I know that you're busy people, so you need to have it like, just make it easy for me, Joe, is what people say to me. So that's what I do. You just need to bring yourself, in terms of your time, and we work on you and we work on your business. We do the whole holistic thing, because that's what unlocks performance. So that's how the process works. And it's a mixture of leadership coaching, like the personal stuff. It's business mentoring. So I don't tell you what to do, but I do give you I do help you find more options. That's how I put it with people, is that I help you find, and I push you to find more options so you can be more creative with your business. But then we narrow it down so we're more committed and we're more focused with what we're doing. So we go simple, actionable plans. So you know what to do next when you finish Founders Reboot, and you know how to promote it and communicate a higher value. That's the kind of the whole package summed up. And this is what people love about it. And the words that keep coming up in these reviews are, it made me focus. I was avoiding this for months. It's put me on a solid footing. It's given me time and energy, because they got enthusiasm, because they know what they need to do next. That's why people are enthused. And clarity about why I need to focus on certain activities. And that all comes through the stuff that we do together, because I explain not only what you need to do, but why you need to do it. So you've got a better understanding of where you need to go. Claire here was talking about choices. She needed to be forced to make choices, so I helped her. I didn't force her. She through the process, she made those choices because she wanted to. And it was clearer what her options are and what her choices were. We were talking about being reflective and action orientated here. That's the mix we try to do. Jane was talking about she wanted her business to feel exciting again, like it used to at the start. What had happened since is she'd become overwhelmed with tasks and she lost her enthusiasm. And that's what I helped to bring about. It's why I call it a reboot. That's what we're doing here. Tell me if any of these things resonate with you. I'm just looking at the chat here because someone was saying, oh yeah, so Red, hi Red, nice to see you. Thanks for dropping in today. Really liked your point on reflecting. Oh yeah, I believe that I do reflect, but the reality is I probably don't. Yeah, I think that's a really common thing. Thank you, Red, for making that point. We think we are reflecting, but actually we do need to spend a bit more time. And I support you on doing that. So to qualify, so this process isn't for everybody. I like to make that clear. You need to be a founder, an entrepreneur, or business owner, and you've got to be the person responsible for strategy. But the really key thing is you've got to want to take your business to a new level. Like, I only want to work with people who are ready. They're ready. They've had enough of performance is stalling, or it's not a level I want it to be, or I'm not making as much money as I want it to be when it was profitable as we should be, or I want to seize a new opportunity. You've got to be in that mindset because, it's quite intense. We do 8 weeks. We're meeting every week. It's fast paced. You've got to be up for it. You've got to be up for it. And the question I'd ask you all is, who controls your business? Who's actually in control? Is it you? Or are you being controlled by events? So by that, I would mean the stuff I talked about at the start about, a tough economy, lots of competition, day-to-day stuff. Is that all controlling you, or is it you? Because what I want to do is I want to put you back in control of your business. That's how you take the step forward. And the other question I'd ask you is, where do you want to be in mid-July? Because if we start now, by mid-July, we'll be finished. You'll have insight into yourself. You'll know how to create value. You know how to communicate value. You'll have an action plan. And you'll be holding yourself to account. So that's how quick it is. We don't need to take a year doing this. So if you're interested in Founders Reboot, I've got just 3 spaces left on the current June-July cohort. So as I say, we meet at a regular time. So Monday mornings, Thursday mornings, they're still available. If you want one of those slots, if you think, yes, I want to meet at 9:30 on a Monday, great. Speak to me about it. It's first come, first serve. So whoever wants the slot first and books it first, they get it. I've also got an evening, slot. So, because I know some people are just like, I'm never, ever going to find the time in the working week to do this. So what I do is I offer an evening slot. If you're in that situation, you can have an evening slot. So Monday evenings is the only slot I do on that. And so tell me if you want to get one of these time slots, you've got to secure it. And also I'm going to close this cohort on the 5th of June. So the total investment, if you want to do Founders Reboot, it's $1,990 for the regular Founders Reboot. If you want to do the evening slot, it's $2,490, a little bit more because we're working in the evening. You can split it in 2 installments. You pay $995 at the start, and you pay another installment at the midpoint. The other thing that I do is I throw in a free accountability call. So we schedule this at the end of Founders Reboot, and you've got your action plan, and you say to me, Joe, I want to meet in 1 month, or actually, I'm going to launch this new thing. I want to meet in 3 months to make sure that I'm on track. You tell me when you want it, and then we book it in. And you've got an hour with me. And my clients tell me they really like this because it just, then, they're working, without me, but they've got something to aim for, and they say they don't want to let me down. They don't want to speak to me and not have progressed all the stuff we worked on together. So it really helps you keep on, because I've talked enough, haven't I, about accountability. It's just absolutely crucial. So if you're interested in it, the way we do it is you book in a call with me, tell me about your challenges and your ambitions, and we have 30 minutes to talk about it. And it's an opportunity for you to see if Founders Reboot is the right way for you, but also if I'm the right fit for you, because it might not be. I'm really keen that we only do this together if we're a good connection, and we're gonna, I'm gonna really support you, and I'm the best option for you. So the way we do that is we have a 30-minute call. If you hold up your camera phone to the QR code, you can book in a slot with me, and I've got 12 slots available over the next week. So secure yours, get it in booked so that you have your opportunity. And it's a free call. We'll talk about your business and yourself. And it's really, I love doing these calls because I'm always discovering new things. And everyone's story is different, everyone's situation is different. And I want to help you be more profitable, reach the level that you want to get to. And the answers, when we go through this process, the answers are there. I guarantee you the answers are there. So that's okay. You can also go to foundersreboot.com. There's a Calendly on there. You can book in a slot with me through that as well. So that is pretty much everything I have to talk about today. Thank you so much for your patience. What I really hope is that there's been some value for you here. And please tell me in the chat, was this helpful to you? What kind of points were resonating? What do you think might be relevant, most kind of pertinent to you around some of the barriers, around some of the needs? I'll just check the chat and just see if there's anything else here that anybody's added. My throat gets so dry doing these. So yeah, just people making points here about some things that are related. I really hope it's opened your eyes a little bit to like opportunities for you that you may not have realized. Yeah, so if there's no more questions, I think we're done basically. So I'm going to let you all go. Thank you so much for turning up. Thank you for contributing and feeding stuff in as we've been going through, which has been helpful for me in terms of steering the conversation. And I really look forward to speaking to some of you and see how we can help you out. But thanks once again. I'm dead on time as well. Pretty good, Joe. And hopefully I will see some of you soon. Thanks a lot for coming today. See you later.